Okay, so today we're going to be talking about pre-writing and one of my favorite parts of pre-writing, which is mind maps or clustering. I find that a lot of students have a hard time starting their essays. For how many of you is that probably the case? A few of you? Okay. And could you give us like maybe one reason why it's hard for you to start?
Just because when you're starting, that's the point where you're trying to get all the ideas out, so it's really hard to come up with new things to write about and what you want to say. So
yeah, so just like getting it on the page. How many of you just don't even do pre-writing? You just sit down in front of a computer and start typing your essay? Okay, quite a few of you. So maybe this lesson today will give you guys some ideas about how you can begin to organize your essay before you actually begin to even start writing it. By getting those ideas down, right? Gives you a little bit easier structure. So I'm just going to talk through this video as it plays. It has music that goes to it, but we don't really need that. But it just gives you an overall idea of how a mind map works, what it looks like. I'm not as creative as this person, so I wanted to give you guys an example of how creative it can be. I'm not an artist, like I said, so this person has a really good example of what a really creative mind map can look like. So in the middle, you're always going to have your central idea. Maybe it's your argument. Maybe it's an idea that you have for a research essay, right? And then you see these lines that she's drawing down and up to the side are called branches, or they're points that you want to make. So maybe you have your typical 3-point essay, right? So you have point 1, 2, and 3. And then you can also create subpoints, right? Which might be details or examples. But it doesn't have to be that structured, right? So you might just have a general idea and you're just writing everything down and connecting as much stuff as you can. A good thing about this is you can see patterns that are emerging or themes that you might want to write about if you're trying to answer an essay prompt. And she's sort of coloring it in, color coding different ideas, sub-points. And again, this just provides sort of a visual representation of a main idea or an argument. It's less formal for those of you who might be afraid of standard outlines, which is the case for me. When I write a standard outline, I think that I'm now committed to writing this specific argument because it just looks so formal. Whereas this is much more freewheeling and creative. And like I said, allows you to see connections. Does anybody have any questions about how this looks, how it works? Sort of general mind mapping stuff. It's pretty basic, I think, but easily overlooked. So now we're going to create our own mind map as a class. And I'm create our own mind map, and I want you guys to imagine you have a prompt where you're having to write a narrative descriptive essay. So an essay that describes while also telling a story. It's going to be about your favorite place, so some place that you really care about. But for our purpose, we're going to do a place that I care about, which is McFarland Library. Can someone give me one sort of not main idea, but a sub-point about why McFarland is a good or great place to be?
I really like the old architectural style, like the lighted glass windows and stuff like that. It feels so studious.
Okay, so we have the style of the building, which can also be broken down even smaller, right, to the little, even minor details. I heard you mention windows. Anybody else? Yes.
Like that's where the writing center is?
Yes, the writing center. We love the writing center. And what do they do at the writing center?
They help students who need help with their writing. They edit papers, help with research.
So it's a resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might just write off to the side that it's a resource. One that I can think of that maybe hasn't been mentioned yet, that's another resource, are the stacks, right? Which are the actual books. Have you guys been down there yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't go down there until my senior year. And I was really sad to find that, oh, this is where the good stuff is. Right? It's got books. It's got some other stuff on there, right? Like microfiche, microfilm. What's maybe one other thing? Yeah.
It's a good, quiet place to study.
Yes. Study. That's quiet. Good. So if we were writing our essay, we could maybe start to think about, maybe I talk about the resources first. Or maybe as a way of introducing the building to my reader, I talk about what it looks like, right? And then sort of move into the things that you can do there, right? As a way of introducing them to that place. Good. Again, not as pretty, I think, as the video, but maybe I have some doodles, right? If I had some extra time to take on this, maybe I would draw an outline of the building, right? Maybe draw some little books. Okay, so now that we all kind of get how this works, we'll have you create your own mind map of a descriptive narrative that talks about your favorite place.